There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. And this is what Lenin said. This is one such situation. With 5 million affected, 329,000 dead. On the world tourism scene yesterday, the UNWTO said that international travel would be down anything between 60 and 80%. Cost the global economy $2.1 trillion, 75 people rendered jobless. Closer home in India, I've always been quoting this figure that it's a very simple calculation. We are 10% of India's GDP, which is 200 lakh crore. That puts us as 20 lakh crore. 50% will be washed off. And so the loss to the Indian travel and tourism industry will somewhere be close to 5 lakh crore, 10 lakh crores. Those of you who read Economic Times headlines today, it said that 55 million people are employed in the tourism industry in India, and job losses to the extent of 38 million. The restaurant industry will lose a couple of million also, and 4 out of 10 restaurants, sadly, will never see the light of day again. Truly, this is what I call a black swan event. There are opinions which are ripples on the surface, shallow and easily changed. There are attitudes which are currents below the surface, deeper and stronger. There are values which are the deep tides, slow to change, yet very powerful. When values change, it causes a seismic shift. Rules are rewritten, mindsets change, and society resets its priorities. When the Black Death ended, federalism and with the Black Death ended federalism and serfdom. World War II saw the rise of the participation rate of women in the workforce. 9/11 reshaped transportation and security policies worldwide. TSA was born. 26/11 reshaped hotel security. 2003 SARS, the attitudes towards shopping in China, and there was a surge in online shopping. What are these new priorities? There are really 3 major priorities. The first is health and hygiene. Health is the new wealth, and it moves from being reactive to proactive. Safety assumes even greater importance, arising from the fear of infection. Emphasis on distancing and disinfecting. Sustainability will get amplified. Only yesterday, Booking.com published that 87% of people said they would travel sustainably because it is restorative and regenerative versus take, make, and dispose. The difference also is that people would look for validation with visible certification. Moments of truth will have to be converted to moments of trust. Trust is truly the crux. The road to the new normal is also paved with digital. Exploration of the digital, finding new ways to disconnect, to connect through meaningful, what I call phygital experiences, the new communication tool. In sum, we must keep one eye on the microscope. As Toffler said, it's all about capability versus capability. We have our limitations. We can trim the fat, but we can't cut the muscle. The second eye must go on the telescope. A storm draws something out of us that calm seas don't. Every disaster brings with it seeds of opportunity. But we must remember that these seeds of opportunity are perishable. Closer home, in the Indian industry, the federations, various associations, put together a 3-pronged strategy of what they call survival, revival, and thrival. Survival, with the hotel industry being in the ICU, on every conceivable life support system. Cash is the bloodline. The industry has put forth a whole lot of demands, and I think Mr. Suri is going to cover this later on. Revival, we are looking forward to the 25 million people who go outbound. How can we create demand out of them? We are optimistic in believing that revenge holidays will take place, and how can the industry capitalize it? As far as thrival is concerned, it's transforming impossible India to an even more incredible India in the new world order. What are the changes that are going to take place as a result of these seismic shifts in the hotel industry? The world at one time came to conquer COVID. Then they wanted to contain it. Now they believe we have to coexist with it. This is going to lead to what we call the rise of sanitized travel. People will travel more intelligently, more impulsively. Again, hygiene is the new 800 thread count. Cleanliness is the new amenity as disinfectant protocol. Replace location with cleanliness. Sanitization is the new security. Thermal scanners are the new metal detectors. It is not enough to be aesthetically clean. We all as hotels would have to turn to what is called clinically clean. I just reiterate that both perception and reality matters. And therefore, our hotels would have to become what I call cleanliness theaters with visible demonstration of cleanliness taking place. You spray, so shall you reap. Last but not the least, housekeeping moves to the epicenter of hotel operation. As a result, we would see thermal scanners, electrostatic sprayers, innovation, disinfection technology, UV technology, hospital-grade disinfectant, pure rooms with air purification and sanitization. Over 100 touch points in the hotel, some high, some low, and how we are going to work on them. The next point is the rise of distance. As an outcome of the 6-foot rule, people have termed a word that is coined as social distancing. As an industry, I will urge you, we can never get socially distant. We should all as an industry collectively call it safe distancing. An outcome of this is high-tech service is heading towards touchless service. In an ideal situation, the only hand that touches are yours. Low-touch service protocols will come into place. Again, I would prefer to call this contact light service and not touchless service. You would see digital keys. You would see check-in and check-out without any contact. You would see plexiglass partitions. You would see texting concierge, voice-enabled controls, digital menus, contactless payments, and so on. And I believe some of the other speakers are going to talk about this. This seismic shift also has ripples on some of the other aspects of the industry. The first one is food and beverage, where takeaway has become the new eating out, as home becomes the new epicenter of our lives. Home's ground has become the new ground. QSR is the quality, will now stand for quality, safety, and reliability. The big fat Indian wedding has gone on a diet. Mice has gone on a coma. And there's accentuation of the ghost kitchen. We are no longer scared of ghosts. What are the actions that the industry needs to take? Redesign service, buffet etiquette, if at all buffets do exist. Platter to plate will cease to exist. Yet, we must maintain the integrity of our brands while planning these. Takeaways would require tamper-proof seals. There'll be new menus embedded with health, wellness, sustainability, a rise in plant-based organic, and of course, social distancing from junk food. Redefine space ratios. We'll have to reconfigure restaurants. The earlier National Building Code had said 5 feet for vertical drinking and 17 feet for a sit down. The new WHO guidelines says 27 feet, irrespective of what purpose it is there. Room service will find new ways to deliver, knock and drop, grab and go, and contactless ordering through QR codes, etc., will become a way of life. Last but not the least, I must emphasize that in the long term, what this is going to have a tremendous impact is on our buildings and how we redesign hotels. It was Churchill who said, "We shape buildings, thereafter buildings shape us." It is believed that in the Spanish flu, before the Spanish flu, buildings were all ornamental. It is post the Spanish flu that straight lines begin to appear. We need to create an environment that appears to all 5 senses, not just visionary. Design that can affect transmission-reducing pathogen transmissions through antimicrobial materials that can weaken or kill disease-causing organisms. Less porous clean surfaces, less carpets, as these tend to be dust traps, bacteria-resistant materials, safe distancing, hygiene checks into the design have to be integrated, increase fresh air, antibacterial switches, paints, laminates, even fabric. Design renders and designs that render itself to cleanability. There's also a great talk of biophilic designs. I also just learned about this term recently. It's connecting guests with nature in a variety of ways to reduce stress, enhance creativity, improve well-being, and expedite health. My favorite subject has always been that of sleep. And I've said that the hotel industry sells sleep. We've done a lot of work on sleep, and sleep being very closely connected with health is going to gain a lot of grounds. I urge you all to not only man does not sleep by bed alone. In addition to the 5 physical senses of sleep, I quote as an example, we looked at the biological factors, fatigue, food, etc. We looked at the positive neurotransmitters, be it melatonin, be it magnesium, B6. We put this into the food menu in our sleep laboratory, and we measured this against parameters of heart rate, breathing, rhythm, movement, snoring, and all of these. And some of these were absolutely great results, etc. With this, I believe, and I come to my conclusion, that what is the new service mantra? All about redefining our spaces and experience. Many years ago, you gave me a book called Setting the Table by Danny Meyer. I quote from him, "When we are born, we get 4 gifts: eye contact, smile, a hug, and some food. This is also the foundation of the hospitality industry. And 3 out of the 4 are still, my friends, very possible. We therefore need to create experiences that reduce anxiety and well-being to guests who want a sense of freedom with personal controls, will fear situations they can't control. My new definition of service would be seldom heard, seldom seen, never touched, always felt. You can't smile, but let your service bring a smile in the guest. I get confidence that touchless service can, can be as successful as high-touch service if we go back into our history and look at the Namaste. The Namaste had no physical contact, and yet the emotions that it evoked were second to none. There are a couple of negative signs. One is that the migration of people from the metro cities to the rural areas is going to make sure that there is a spread of corona also in the villages, which is going to be difficult to control, and the testing kits, etc., are not going to be if you look at the doubling rate in India, it's not it doesn't look very, very good. And we must remember that it's all dependent on the denominator. So most people believe, and from many of the reports that I have read, India is going to peak in July and August, right? I also believe, although people claim that a vaccine would be found in 6, 12, 14 months, many people believe, and my doctors sort of tell me that it's not before 18 months that a vaccine can be found. Even after the vaccine is found, before we can sort of say that we are a COVID-free, to some extent, it would take another 6 months. So we are talking of 24 months. What then is our future? We have only one future. We can't wait for lockdowns to open and close and say that we're going to react after the lockdown opens, because that's purely political. We have to find ways that the situation we live to coexist with this situation. And all our service designs and many of the things that I mentioned, and there's some brilliant job, and a lot of the readings that I'm doing are from chains, the Hyatt, the Marriott, the Uberwise, the Taj. Each one has done some brilliant job. The Accor, I've seen some readings of the Lemon Tree, etc. Each one has done a brilliant job. We've collectively pulled this together. We've got to learn to coexist for the next 24 months. I think many years back, and adopted the triple bottom line approach. And I think the challenge was when we came to rebranding our hotels, and when we went from Sheraton and we went to luxury collection, and we were creating a whole lot of more luxury hotels, etc. I think the choice was at that point or the other that are we going to be green or are we going to be luxury? It was believed at that time that the two can't go together. That to be a green hotel, you had to switch off the power, you had to throttle the water pressure, you don't change the bed sheets in 48 hours and so on and so forth, etc. I think that's where it really occurred to us, and we said that no, we don't have a choice of and or, and we will do both together. We will be sustainable and we will be luxury, and therefore we began with ITC Gardenia, where we said that how can we make this the world's second platinum rated hotel, and yet it got possibly every accolade for being a great hotel, etc., hotel of the year, and so on and so forth, etc. And that's where the thought of responsible luxury sort of came forward, and then we took it to all our hotels. I certainly believe that it's a way forward, and we could have been ahead of our times, but the current times show that people are more and more, and people have had time to reflect, people have spent more time on the electronic media or social media, and are more educated on this. And I believe that, and more than anything else, I think that people have begun to realize, and I think COVID has taught us that nature doesn't recognize the artificial borders that human beings set around their countries, right? It doesn't recognize these borders, and anything can be global, right? And so is sustainability. The impact of one country can be an impact on the other. So these are going to be global movements, etc. And I'm glad Priya raised the point. We are seeing a similar thing in sustainability, in food, farm to fork. We've done some work, and you're aware of some of the work we've done on local love, on reducing the footprint of purchase, on our Choose Wisely program, on fish that are overfished, and so on and so forth. It will be back to normal. I think that it will be a change world, and some of the points that I covered earlier, you would have to carry with you a passport or a validation to say that you have been vaccinated, and so on and so forth, etc. So some of the really, if you look at the two period BC, which is, to use your term, before Corona, BC and AC, right? I think some of the things that will carry on, which are even now during the Corona period, but of course a lot of them will die. I take Priya's point that we are socially wired, socialization will come back, etc. But I think that an important point that Patu made was that regrettably, the supply will be disrupted, right? And demand will come back. Right? There will be new opportunities. India has got lots of great opportunities. If you look at what India can offer in terms of the changing world order, Ayurveda, medical tourism, yoga, some of the great things that we have, etc. And this is what the world is going to look at. Buddhist tourism. I mean, we have 4 out of the 5 Buddhist monuments in this country, less than 1% of Buddhicity. If we really take this time and as I said, look at the telescope and create together a market plan of what products are we going to offer in which markets, not necessarily long-haul markets. We've got $400 billion worth of travel in East Asia, minus China. Even if we can take 10% of that, we can double our foreign exchange journey. So I think there are some great opportunities. Regrettably, yes, the supply will go down, will get disrupted, but demand will certainly bounce back.